I have me, which at one point, as I say, I contemplated suicide. Today I have me, and nothing in the world that's going to replace me having me, of course, and my amazing family that today is with me. And they're truly happy with what they see in front of them. I am truly happy with the person I look at in the mirror. In the past, I didn't want to look at this person because all I saw was nothing but this, pathetic, as in, I didn't even want to look at myself. To be honest, if I had the opportunity of just getting out of bed without even changing, dressing, showering, you name it, I would have went outside, but the chances are I would have got caught in terms of, indecency. But the reality is today I enjoy what I see in the mirror, and I want to enjoy what I see in the mirror.
All right, guys, here we go. Part 2 with Poobie Moodley. The first episode was an absolute blockbuster. And as requested, this is part 2 with Poobie's journey to recovery. And I would just like to say that this is a glimmer of hope for anybody who's going through some kind of adversity, in particular addiction. And I've attached in the show notes the hotline numbers for help. There are 2 numbers down there in the show notes. If you would like to call, if you are somebody who is struggling with addiction in the gambling space and you would like help, if you're ready to make the change to turn your life around, check out those 2 numbers below in the show notes. As always, like, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Poobie, round 2. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Cool. So, Poobie, listening back to part 1, you set the scene, how your life deteriorated over a span of decades. And you spoke about what I would refer to as the triangle of chaos, that noose tightening around your neck of 3 outcomes if you didn't get yourself and your life together: insanity, imprisonment, and suicide as the 3 options, inevitable options if you didn't get yourself together. You, of course, decided that you were going to make a change for the better. You outlined that adequately in part 1. But moving into part 2, I want to know about the steps that you took to then turn your life around. So what was that initial step that you took in the start of your journey to recovery?
Thank you, firstly, Clinton, for having me again. Really honored to be here. Thank you again. Getting back to what you've just asked. Look, if I may say, in my opinion, what took me there is my rock bottom. First and foremost, had I not crossed that invisible line, I don't think I would have went there. But at the same time, sadly, rock bottom, in my opinion, is different to everybody. And however, with mine, I believed that I had reached the real rock bottom. There was nowhere deeper that I could have fallen. I've reached that pit. And of course, I needed now to understand, which took me a long time. I actually got a wake-up call from my family, whereby my kids had told me, "Pops, this time you're on your own." And the one that really hurt me the most is when my wife told me after 31 years of marriage that it's your life, do with it what you want. And that was like a dagger that had pierced my heart. Laying aimlessly in bed, not knowing what to do, how to do, where to go, because my head was like a washing machine. For the mere fact that I was so inundated with debt that losing everything, I had no idea how I'm going to come out of it. And I think, in my opinion, those were the words that really struck a chord in me, if I could use that word. Another very important one that actually made a difference to my thoughts is one morning when my son came into my room and he said to me, he said, "Pops, do you know whatever you touch turned into gold?" Which was absolutely the fact in my past. "So why don't you get up, chase your dream? However, this time, understand one thing, we will stand by you. But unfortunately, I was given an ultimatum. And that is that this time around, you're not going to be touching cash. And yeah, it was a hard pill for me to swallow because, as being the previous, as in being the macho, the breadwinner, the Jones, whatever you may call it, which addiction brings to, in my opinion, to the mind, makes me feel invisible, that I had to put my pride, my ego aside and eat humble pie. And of course, later, my wife came back into the room and then she said to me, I'm going to leave you a number, or I've left you a number on the kitchen table. It's your life, do with it what you want. You could call the number or you could choose not to call the number. And of course, what did I do next? I got out of bed and yeah, showered, changed, whatever. And I was on the road in terms of attaining premises so that I can now get back on my feet, because that's exactly what my son meant when he told me, get up and chase your dreams. And more importantly, I decided to make that call. And that call was the true game changer in my life. Not knowing who it was a cell phone number. She didn't tell me anything who the person is. And thankfully, I made the call. And when I did, to my amazement, it was somebody who had been through what I've been through, as in addiction. And after listening to this person, it had completely changed my mind in terms of where I need to go, what I need to do. And that is that I needed to get up and smell the coffee. Enough is enough. I've been chasing shadows all my life and I got nothing but poverty in return. So yeah, that was my game changer in terms of mindset as to where I need to go. I always say change only happens if I choose to change. And I'm thankful. On the 3rd of September 2013 was the day that I had made that choice of change. And since then, I can tell you now, when I first decided, there was a light in front of me, but it was so dim that I had to look closely in order to find that light. But thankfully, since the day I opted to make that change, that light just got brighter and brighter and brighter. So yeah, if that makes sense as to the question that you put forward. If not, please feel free to rephrase and I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah. Poobie, what happened next after that phone call? Where did that take you next on your journey to recovery?
After that phone call, this particular person, by the way, was in KZN and I'm located in Gauteng. However, he had given me a lead of somebody senior in an amazing fellowship called Gamblers Anonymous, who I had then touched base with. Listened to me contently. He then referred me to a meeting room in Boksburg, giving me the chairperson's name. And the next right thing for me to have done, which I did, and I followed up with the call. And yeah, to my amazement, I always say it's not a coincidence, it was meant to be. That person answered the call in 2 rings. And yeah, we spoke. He explained me briefly what it's all about, gave me an address, and he said to me, we do meetings on a Tuesday. And yes, my first meeting took place on the 3rd of September 2013, and I don't have a day of regret since.
It's funny how life and the directions that our lives take us on our journeys is on a knife edge all the time. You think about if that person doesn't answer the phone immediately or they're not near their phone, maybe you have second thoughts. You think, oh, it wasn't meant to be. And you head on over back to the casino or bet on a horse or anything like that. The fact that that phone was answered within 2 rings, you were able to action immediately the impulse of wanting to change, and that positive momentum just continued to roll. It didn't seem like once you made that decision that there were many stumbling blocks in the way. It was just number on the table, phone that person, phone this person. Everybody answered, and you'd made the decision, and it was aligned, and you were moving forward. So, yeah, that's very interesting that you made mention of the two rings. I completely empathize with that. What about when you get to Gamblers Anonymous? So, did you have any preconceived ideas or notions about what that organization might be like? And if so, what were they? And if they changed your mind in any way, what did you change your mind about?
First and foremost, yeah, getting back to that cause, I always say I speak for myself, me as an addict. Difference is I'm in recovery as opposed to active addiction. I stand firmly by the fact that strike while the iron is hot. Why do I say that? You said part of it. In between, if that call is not answered, or should that call rather not be answered, as an addict behavior will kick in at any given opportunity. That's at least my opinion. Chances are, okay, they haven't answered. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe I've still got one throw at the dice in terms of going back, trying to recuperate my losses. That is why I stand firmly today that strike while the iron is hot. For the mere fact, inactive addiction tomorrow never came for me. For the mere fact that I live for today in terms of feeding the addiction. So yeah, first and foremost, I just thought I'd get that off the way. And yeah, getting back to Gamblers Anonymous, I always say Gamblers Anonymous was, is, and will always be the true game changer in my life. That was my lifeline and will always be my lifeline. It's not an easy path. It's a painful path, but one has to go, in my opinion, no pain, no gain. And of course, this time around, I had to walk the talk rather than talk the walk, which I've done umpteen times in the past. So yeah, getting into that room, I want to rewind the clock as into my very first GA meeting, which was just over 32 years ago, or just about. I was privileged to have the opportunity of meeting somebody which was, it's actually my wife's friend, her husband. We met over the phone call, and then he said to me, he said, listen, all I want is just for you to come through. And didn't tell me much more. And of course, at that time, I was at my first rock bottom. And I thought, okay, why not? And of course, I live out in the East Rand. This meeting was in Norwood, which was the only GA meeting room at that time. And on the way to the meeting, he had mentioned nothing with regards to what I can expect or what is GA all about. We spoke of lots of other things. However, when I got there, or whilst I'm in the car driving through, with me being in his vehicle, what crossed my mind, and this is truth, I'm thinking, wow, could it even have been any better for the mere fact that this time around, I'm pretty sure that they would either ask me who's the people I owe money to, offer to pay them, but absolutely not give me the money in hand because, of course, knowing full well that I have an addiction. And I didn't mention it to him, but it was playing on my mind, And of course, getting into that room, I was amazed that I was met with at least up to about 10 other members in that room, welcomed me, gave me a hug. And sitting in the meeting started, and I'm still playing in my mind, when are they going to ask Poobie, how much you owe, to whom you owe money? But unfortunately, we're not going to give you the money, we're going to pay it for you. And unfortunately, nothing to the extent went down. But this is the truth. And I'm sitting there and I'm sitting there. Finally, they called on me and I was a bit nervous. But anyway, I said a little. And I thought, okay, by saying a little, now they're going to probably ask me that question. But absolutely nothing, to my amazement, of that sort was mentioned. However, it came to the close of the meeting. After that, a lot of them came around me, spoke. Please feel free, stay in contact, blah, blah, blah. And of course, the saddest thing about all of this, first and foremost, Yes, I wasn't given the bailout, which I call is a bailout. Had I been given that, I don't believe I would have even went in as far as recovery. But the more important reason why I'm mentioning this, at that time, I actually did it to please my wife. I did it to save my relationship with the extended family, with my wife, with my kids. They were tiny at that time. Not realizing this has got nothing to do with my wife, my family, my kids. It's got to do with me because I'm the problem, not the family. However, yes, I continued for about 13 odd months, frequenting the meeting on a regular basis with this person who was at that time the chairperson. And sadly, after about 13 odd months, I decided I got it under control. Uh, you know I don't need to gamble. And I stopped going to meetings. I stopped keeping in contact. However, this German did contact me from time to time. But I always, found a reason not to go to the meetings. However, at the same time, I focused on me, as in me building myself momentary wise, whereby, yes, I built myself an empire true to the word. However, at a stage many years later, I'm not sure, but I think many would be acquainted with what we call the July handicap, as in horse racing. And I was a lover of horse racing, casino, sport betting, but nonetheless, that particular day whereby I had built my empire, and of course, out of social, that's all it was. I decided to wagger a very, very small, that never even made a difference in my pocket, as in all in pocket money for that matter. And yeah, I lost. But it was so small that it wasn't the loss that had played mind games. It was the addiction that had played mind games. And yeah, the Sunday, this race happens on a Saturday, of course. So the Sunday, whilst having lunch with the family,
Mm.
in my mind, I was already telling myself stories. Now I'm trying to find out, okay, my wife is aware, my kids are aware, family is aware, Poobie is not gambling anymore. And I had said to her, I said, babes, after lunch, I'm just gonna go take a few bets and I'll be back. All she did was ask me where. I said, no, no, not far, and I'll be back. And of course, I don't blame her for accepting what I was saying, because she's not an addict. She has no idea what addiction is all about, yet she's been as a support or as a spouse to an addict. She understood and she said, fine. In my understanding, she believed I was cured. In my understanding, she believed alternatively that I had it under control, which even I believed I had under control. Nonetheless, I went over to the toad office. This time, being the Sunday, I waggered much more than what I had lost yesterday. And sadly, I lost. Again, building that empire, building my reserves in terms of, again, assets, monies, credit cards, you name it, all the fancy things. Only to realize I found myself back again on Monday. I found myself back again on Tuesday. And I was back
Mm.
at square one where I had left. This time, worse than where I had left off. Which, to my understanding, again, in my opinion, sadly, compulsive gambling will never leave me. It will be with me through the rest of my life because I've taken the lesson out of it. Years I didn't gamble. All it meant was just one small bet. And it took me down a memory lane that I wouldn't want to go down again, which this time brought me through to my true rock bottom, squandering everything in my life, which I remember I've mentioned in part one. But yeah, that's where it had taken me. And I'm thankful that the second time around, which is the 3rd of September 2013, when I walked into these rooms for the second time, money wasn't something that had played in my mind that they're going to give me some Christmas packet and say, yeah, Poobie, because I knew exactly, but it wasn't something I had chosen. As I say, my wife had Googled. I had forgotten that there was Gamblers Anonymous. She had actually Googled, and that's how she left that number for me to call, should I wish to call it. So, yeah, that's how it all started.
Hmm. Yeah, probably something that you alluded to in part one, which is a testament to what you've just said there. You said one bet is too many and 100 bets is not enough. And I think that's pretty much hit the nail on the head there with regards to your first, if you want to call it a relapse. How long did that relapse last, and how long did it take you to get back on the wagon, so to speak, after that?
The second time around, I try not to use the word relapse. I don't mean this in a bad way. For the mere fact, the word relapse today doesn't exist in my vocabulary. Because, in my opinion, relapse is to do with the addiction and not with recovery. I am here for the right reasons, as in recovery, wanting to become a better version of myself. And I still stand by it firmly. When people mention, or members, I say to them, look, there's a nicer way to say, I fell off the wagon or went back to the bed. Why do I say that? Because there's always that still suffering addict out there. Will always be. And the more that relapse occurs, again in my mind, to that person, he or she believes relapse is okay. That is the reason I try and refrain from that word. However, going back to the bet, just to me, it sounds a little more, call it appetizing, that it settles in one mind much nicer than if one had to use the word relapse. However, getting back to the relapse or falling off the wagon, as I say, when going back to the bet, this time around, it was much shorter, but much more painful. I always believe, and I stand firmly on it because I'm proof of the pudding, falling or going back to the bed, again, is much worse than where I had left off. And that's a given fact. Because I would call it linked to many fellowships in terms of alcoholism, drug addiction, and many others as well. But those are the three main ones that I've highlighted. And many have stood by the statement that, yes, going back to the drug or the bed or the drink is much worse than where we had left off. Why? Because, in my opinion, again, the body, the mind hasn't been acquainted with it for a long time. And just suddenly it's coming back. Then that's how it becomes worse. And of course, worse in the sense, shorter period of time, wagering bigger money, wagering bigger bets, with the hope that, yeah, I'd be able to win quicker. But sadly, that wasn't the outcome because there is no get rich quick fix scheme. Yes, absolutely, there's a get poor quick fix scheme, which I've come out from. So, yeah, in terms of the period of time, I could say much shorter. If you want an exact time, I would say within a year, year and a half tops. I had squandered everything in my life, this time worse than the previous.
Okay, so you continued on that road for a year to a year and a half. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's quite something. Hey, Poobie, and I know that having been in, you mentioning Gamblers Anonymous, and I'd imagine falling off the wagon is something that's very relatable for many people who have encountered addiction. Um, the road to progress and to sobriety is not a linear road, man. It's up, down, left, right. um,
Absolutely.
it's certainly not easy. Um, yeah, tell me, do you still attend Gamblers Anonymous meetings to this day?
Absolutely, with a passion. I treat my recovery, I treat my
Okay.
meetings as serious as a heart attack. Why do I say that? Again, taking lessons of my past. And I believe that there is, again, with no discrimination to anybody, any institute, this is just my personal opinion. Unfortunately, there isn't anybody out there that could assist and really understand me. Be it a therapist, be it a psychiatrist, be it the best hospital in town, be it even the best surgeon anywhere around the world. He or she, unfortunately, understands my problem, but sadly cannot resonate with my problem. For example, I could be sitting in front of any professional person. Yes, they will sympathize with me. Yes, they will give me some ideas as to what I should be doing. But when I sit in those rooms, I sit with the best therapist in town, who sadly doesn't bring any myth into the room, brings real war stories as to what went down in their lives. And of course, after a while, shares exactly how he or she had overcome. And that's how I'm able to learn this new way of thinking and living without a bet. Today I'm able to live a normal and a happy life without placing a bet. But again, that being said, this is no easy quick fix scheme whereby, yeah, one or two meetings and I'm cured or I have it under control. As I said, from my experience, I will never have it under control. It will always have me under control. However, on the same note, I had to take, I always call it the 3 A's, which within myself, after listening, learning, and implementing in my path of recovery, the 3 A's I'm referring to is acceptance, admittance, and accountability, in my opinion. I even hold on to it today. Because acceptance is about me accepting this moment for what it is. Acceptance to me, in the days of walking into recovery and still do, I need to accept the fact that I was, am, and will always be powerless over this addiction. This addiction is much more powerful than I had ever dreamed. As I said previously, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I was able to, thankfully, 32 years ago, take care of my alcoholism. But again, it's all about one day at a time. One drink too many and 1,000 too few. Likewise, I needed to accept the fact that I am a full-blown addict. Difference. I'm in recovery as opposed to active addiction. And to me, that makes me stand one above many. Because sadly today, everybody is hit with some issues or the other. If it's not addiction, there's always an issue. But what do most choose to do? Sweep it under the carpet. With me and many others, thousands of other men and women around the world, we've made the best choice in life, and that is to accept. And more importantly, I needed to admit that my life was truly, truly unmanageable in every sense of the word. No matter how many times I tried to put this addiction beside me, I failed dismally. No matter how many times I reached out, I failed dismally. The only true lifeline to me was Gamblers Anonymous, and still is. And of course, the last one, which is accountability. I always say, I need to take accountability of my actions. Because those actions didn't just or wouldn't just go away. That's my responsibility. First and foremost, I created debt beyond my neck and above. People had trusted me. Banks had trusted me. Friends had trusted me. Family had trusted me when I initially took the funds. But sadly, my addiction got the better part of my honesty, whereby as much as I believed I'm going to pay you, sadly, as I say, the addiction was much stronger than my mindset. Even when I won, for some reason, I never choose to walk away because I always believe today is my lucky day. I'm going to win big. That's when I'll pay Tom, Dick, Paul, Harry, and. Sadly, the outcome was I walked out a pauper. So, yeah, that was something that was very important to me. And I always say, I use these terms. I did the crime, Now I need to do the time. However, I feel blessed. I'm grateful. I feel privileged. Why? I get to do the time under my roof. I get to do the time at my pace. And I get to do the time with freedom. It's a given fact, which you mentioned earlier, and we spoke on part one. Should I continue and not address my problem, I'm going to reach, if not two, perhaps all three, which is insanity, prison, or suicide. And yeah, I'm thankful that I had to now take accountability. There's many out there that sadly is doing the time behind prison bars. Why? Because of the fraud, misuse of funds, and. So yeah, I'm thankful that I get to do the time with freedom.
Yeah,
I hope
well
that
said,
answers
Poobie.
your question.
Something that uh, yeah, absolutely. Something that I try to keep front of mind for me, being in the fitness industry and essentially choosing a career in helping people and getting them to change their behavior and the decisions they make on a daily basis with respect to their health and wellness is accountability is crucial when anybody is wanting to change anything about their life. Because the moment you don't take accountability, you remove your power. And what I mean by that is if it's never my fault, if it's always somebody else's fault, then you're continuously at the mercy of everybody else's actions, at the mercy of external circumstances and factors. But when an individual takes accountability for their actions, however small their role was in wherever they ended up, because there's lots of people who have very unfortunate circumstances, whatever you can take accountability for, take accountability for it, because you're taking the power back to you as the individual, because you can then do something about that. You can better your situation, no matter how dire the situation might be. And I think that is crucial that you alluded to accountability, because it's the same in the fitness space, where everybody decides, a lot of people say they don't have enough time. No, you do have enough time. You just don't prioritize your fitness and your health. You don't have the finances. You don't need money to get fit. Go for a walk. If you're sitting at your desk all day, start by walking 5,000 steps a day. Walk 10 minutes after every meal. Don't eat like a child. Eat like an adult. Eat vegetables and protein and healthy carbohydrates. It's very simple. The fitness industry has made millions in marketing and advertised this thing and that thing. And the reality is, just be sensible in your approach and take accountability for the things that you've done that are doing a disservice to you as an individual. So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. Poobie, what about your road to redemption financially? You'd accumulated a fair amount of debt over that time, I'm sure. You alluded to the fact that you'd settled all that debt and you'd met with your debtors and you'd paid them all back. What was that journey like for you? How did you go about that? And on a side note, what was your relationship like with those people as you tried to repair the damage and the trust?
Thank you, Clinton. Firstly, yeah, I just want to add something to what you mentioned. I'll always stand firmly by this. I have no control on outside issues, nor do I have any control on someone else. And I might add, even if it means my better half for that matter. However, on the same note, I do have total power on how I react. And that's something that I wouldn't allow anybody to take away from me. And again, what it boils down to, like you say, the accountability. End of the day, it was me that did it, and I needed to take accountability. However, accountability is a very painful journey. Doable, possible, but painful. And yeah, I always stand firmly, no pain, no gain. And of course, accountability to my understanding in me was firstly to take accountability to the people, the institutes, whoever was involved in terms of me attaining funds from. Other very important accountability was for me to start making amends to the people that I've hurt. Most importantly, my immediate family, as in better half, kids, parents, siblings, extended family, close friends, even my bankers for that matter. All of these things, it's a process that I needed to trust. I needed to be patient. And lastly, these things happen not in my time, but in God's time. At least this is my belief. For the mere fact, when it comes to surrendering, this is an emotional illness. It plays mind games, and sadly, something that missed out gravely in my area, which was spirituality. I'm not a spiritual person, never been, but I have some beliefs in my life. But sadly, along the way, those were lost because of my addiction. Example, many a times I would sit either at the casino or the horse racing or whatever. God, please help me because I need to pay the school fees. God, please help me because I need to do this and I need to do that. Again, justifying why I needed the money. And of course, my higher power, as in the God of my understanding, He came to my rescue plenty of times, given me what I had asked. But did Poobie choose that enough is enough and walk away? No. I always believed I needed all today. And by staying, I ended up losing everything. So there came a point where He decided, I'm going to leave Poobie to swim in the deep end. He believed that one day is one day I'd be able to swim out, although I didn't believe it until it did happen. And that's the day He took my hand. Still do. And He walks this journey right beside me. So kind of getting back to your question with the finance, I always say my financials were pathetic, is the word. I lost everything. I was jobless. I was businessless. I was penniless. I was just laying emotionless in bed until, as I say, my son told me, get up, chase your dream. There was an opportunity that came between my first and second meeting. I call it a miracle. That is why I stand firmly. Miracles happen, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly. And I was thankful it occurred to me between my first and second meeting. My first meeting, by the way, I was there, but I was never there. Although I've been in GA before. For the mere fact, I was up to my neck and beyond in debt. I couldn't focus. But something stood out throughout the entire meeting for me. And that was just keep coming back. Nothing else. However, when I got to my second meeting, I was present. I was there. I was there in mind and in person to be able to listen, learn, and implement. And that's when I began walking into these rooms with an open mind, a willingness, and that key factor, a word called honesty. Because if I can't be honest to myself, how can I be honest to somebody else? So it has to start with me. And that's what became the game changer for me. Honesty. Hard pill to swallow. Because I was a totally dishonest person. Not that I had made that choices. Addiction took me there. I'm not blaming the addiction. Every time I had a choice, do I place the bet or do I not? And sadly, I went always with the wrong choices. So I'm not blaming the addiction. I blame myself. However, with the accountability of debt, that was a painful one. I had to first and foremost, thankfully, my first miracle occurred, that a week or two later, I was able, again, with guidance and what worked with somebody else in those rooms, that I had to put that into practice. And what was that? I had to list every single person on paper, not in my mind, on paper. I had to stipulate exactly what I was owing those institutes or persons. And then I had to, on the extreme right of the page, to put down At that time, I had no income. I had to put an idea of an income because I was just starting off. I had no idea what my daily income was going to be. I had no idea whatsoever, but I had to anticipate some figures. And within that, after expenses, of course, I had an amount that I believed would be possible at that time for me to split that amongst the 20 or the 30 persons that I had listed. Again, was very minimal, but I had to do what I had to do. And the next most painful one, and I mean painful one, was for me to pick up the phone to every single person, institute, bank, you name it, to mention. Yes, some of them I had to choose. Because again, saying to everybody I have a gambling problem is not the right thing to do. So I had to be careful. Certain persons I did, certain persons I didn't. And of course, I had to put this proposal. Yes, I'm aware I owe X amount of money. Yes, I'm aware I'm in arrears for 6 months, 8 months. Because those days I didn't take calls. I didn't even adhere to messages because I was running out of ideas as to what to tell the persons. And yeah, I'm making this call today to acknowledge that I have this money's outstanding or payable to the bank or to you. However, I'm not in a position to make the full payment, but I do pledge and I'm prepared to put it in writing, X amount, for at least the next 6 months, because I am a go-getter. It's just, sadly, due to my present circumstances, I'm not in a position to make payment. I will review my situation in 6 months. Thereby, I will either pay more or I will eradicate my entire debt. And I can tell you now, that was hard. My very first call was to a bank, whereby I was in arrears like you can't believe. Just one credit card, leaving the others. Every time in those days, it was, the landline. I picked the receiver, I slammed it back. I think I must have done it over 20 times until I finally had the courage to make that call. And once I had done that, the rest of the call was like me cutting through butter with a hot knife. However, making the call is one thing. The next right thing for me to have done or to do was to stay committed to their plan. And no matter what came in my path, it was the first time in my life after addiction or coming out of addiction, not being cured, coming out of addiction, that I was able to stick to every payment that I had pledged. And it took me 9.5 years to finally eradicate my last debt. But do you know what the nicest thing about all of it is? In my opinion, I believe, in my opinion, because I came clean, because I played open cards with my family first and foremost, because I played open cards in those meeting rooms, and because I was honest to me, I believe my higher power came in and he filled in those blanks. In the sense that not a day within that 9.5 years did I ever have the thought of wanting to place a bet. Why? Because I had made peace with my mistakes. I had made peace with my losses, which was crazy. But I had to do that. If I didn't, it was going to rob me of the precious moments of today. It would rob me in the sense that I would be living in the would have, the could have, the should have. I don't need that. And that is why I was able to focus on me as in Poobie in that 9.5 years, and of course more now, that I was able to now become that better version of myself one day at a time. So yeah, accountability is a hard one. Even accountability in terms of making amends. It's a hard pill to swallow. Because again, I got to put my pride, my ego aside, which in my opinion was the biggest thing that had challenged me for all my life. And I had to now eat humble pie and do the next right thing. There were many of them that told me ugly things on the phone when I had called regarding the money issue. Some of them told me they want to hear nothing but the money. All I did is I took it in good breath. And I said to the person, okay, I'll call you in the next 2 days. Is that okay? Most of them said yes. What did I do? After 2 days, I called. Hi, Clinton, it's Poobie again. I'm calling regarding the monies I owe you. Sadly, there is no other plan for me. I've tried many avenues. So the only plan for me is to put this in writing, and I stand firmly that I will pay you without fail every month, however little it is, but I will stay committed to that plan. And my end result, I believe again strongly, because I was honest with myself, that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired in that world of compulsive gambling, that I believe my higher power came in and he filled in those blanks, meaning that these persons, these institutes ended up accepting my offer. And yet they were small, but they accepted it. So yeah, I was able to be in peace, focus on me, and continue doing the next right thing by building myself. By building myself, today I have this amazing family that at one point wanted to walk away from me. I have my amazing better half that at one point my relationship was on knife edge. Today, we are a family. I'm blessed with grandkids. I live the most amazing life. Yes, I absolutely do not have in terms of momentary values of what I lost, but I'm okay with that because I made peace with it. I'll never be able to get it back unless, yeah, if I decide to perhaps plan a big bank robbery whereby the chances are I'm going to get caught, and that's something too silly for Poobie. Or alternatively, go back to gambling, which again is a guaranteed no return place. So the only option for me is to stay in recovery, which I'm enjoying to the best of my ability. I hope that
Bobby, at
answers
that
your question.
stage when you got offered that lifeline, yeah, it does. When you got offered that lifeline, was that employment through somebody else, or was that a business opportunity that you had identified and you'd started up your own thing?
It was actually a small business opportunity. Yes, I've been in business. I lost it all. I mean, I lost it all. All. And as I said, my son one morning told me, he says, Pops, get up, go and look for premises. This time you're not going to handle cash. We'll assist you, but that's about it. And you're not going to make any dealings. Whenever and should you come up with something, call me, and I'm going to be present when anything has been said to the landlords or the persons concerned. And that's exactly what I followed. I'm going to give you a quick past as to how this happened. I got up and I decided, let me go. I went to the area in question where my core business was and started. I've been on that main road for many years, and I decided that's the place I should go to first, which I did. I drove very slowly at least 4 times on that main road. Absolutely nothing in sight in terms of a vacant store. So I decided to go further down the road, and I turned left. Just as I turned left, which is a side road, there was a bakery in the corner. Right next to the bakery, there was a store, a vacant store with a to-let sign. I stopped. Again, my heart's pumping because now I've got an opportunity to get back on my feet, and that's what mattered to me. Call the number. They told me, listen, the lady that's to do with this building, she's in a meeting, but go next door. Ask the guy at the bakery to please open the store. You can view it. As soon as she's available, I'll get her to call you. I did exactly that. This guy opened, and again, my heart's pumping. For the mere fact, I want to get back on my feet. Yes, the store looked appealing. However, I then asked the guy, I said, tell me, where's the washroom? He said, outside. So he opened the back door, and I was shocked at what I was seeing. I mean, this was a bakery, but at the back, it was nothing but filth. And I mean that. And then it disturbed me. But then I asked myself, hey, are you going to be living in the washroom, or are you going to be living in the store, as in trade? And of course, the answer was the store. So somehow The guy had to close because he had to go back to his business. I waited outside. Whilst waiting, I called my son. And I said to him, son, this is what I've found. He said, not a problem, Pops. I'll be there in about 20, 25 minutes. He was there within 15. Anyway, he said, what, so I said, listen, let's go next door. The guy will open. We can view it in the meantime, because the lady said she will get the person in charge to call me as soon as the meeting's done. Anyway, the guy opened the store. My son looked, and I could see a little bit of disappointment in his eye, but that didn't matter to me. Why? Because I needed to get back on my feet. And he even asked me, he says, Pops, but this is far from where you were. How are you going to? I said, no. I have some plans. I'm going to put some signboards in the corner. Within time, people will come to know that I'm back in town. He says, you sure? I said, yes. But anyway, we went back out because the guy had to lock the store again, waiting. We decided, let's just go and get ourselves a cold drink. So we went back to the main road on foot. It wasn't far. Went into the cafe, got 2 cold drinks, strolled around for a while because time was on our hands. Just as we got out of the store onto the paving, as in the walking path, right in front of me on the main road was a huge window with a to let sign. I actually froze. I had goosebumps, and I still have goosebumps when I talk about it. My son asked me, he said, but you told me. I said, yes, I've been here 4 times, up and down. Nothing of that sort. Anyway, called the number. The landlord said to me, I'll meet you guys up in front within 5 minutes. We crossed the road, waited for the guy. He opened the store. And to my amazement, when I looked at it, it was like a dream come true. Beautiful, huge premises. Asked him, where's the washrooms? Took us to the back. Not 1, 2 washrooms. As tidy and neat as possible. Then we started the negotiations. Again, I'm not being prejudiced. This is exactly how it went down in my life. And for some reason, he just didn't want to trust me. I'm not being racist. He was a Greek, but for some reason, and he had mentioned, he said, listen, I had tenants coming in here every month, a new tenant. And I tried to sell myself to the best of my ability. And I could see he just didn't want to listen to anything. Finally, I made one last gesture to him. And I said to him, Arthur, do you know XXX, which is on the same road further up the street? And this particular landlord owns 3 buildings at the beginning of the main road. He said to me, yes. So I said, do yourself a favor. Please call the number. If he tells you anything out of context, we will walk out of the store. Because he made every excuse not to give it to me. Finally, I think that was the final straw. Then we started negotiating rentals. We came to an understanding. By that time, it was quite late in the afternoon. My son looked at me and he said, Pops, it's not possible for us to come back now with the money. Speak to Arthur in presence of Arthur. I asked him, I said, look, can we come in the morning? He said, yes, I'm here 7:30. We were there the following morning, 7:30. Handed him whatever needed. Asked him, when's my lease? He says, no, in the next 2 weeks or so, I'll have your lease drawn up. He asked me, when are you going to, this was Thursday. He asked me, he said, when are you deciding to open? I said, Monday. He looked at me with craze. He says, you sure? I said, I'm absolutely sure, Monday. When he gave me the keys the following morning, I worked 24/7 around the clock with the help of my kids in terms of stock and whatever. And of course, the weekend I went out buying a bit of stock with monies I didn't have, they gave me. I needed to be accountable by bringing in the receipts and whatever. And Monday morning I was open. He walked in and he says, I don't believe what I'm seeing. I said, well, believe what you see. That day was my game changer in terms of my mindset as well. Because now I'm here for the full form, so to speak. Because without this, there's nothing that can happen. There's no way I'm going to be able to pay any debt or whatever. And since then, I just started working and working to build myself. So yeah, in terms of the miracle and how did I get back on my feet, that's where it started again. And I'm so eternally grateful. I may not have everything my heart desires. I definitely don't have the monies that I had squandered. But I'm okay with that. Because what I have today far outweighs money. And that is my amazing family. I have me, which at one point, as I say, I contemplated suicide. Today I have me. And nothing in the world that's going to replace me having me. Of course, and my amazing family that today is with me. And they're truly happy with what they see in front of them. I am truly happy with the person I look at in the mirror. In the past, I didn't want to look at this person because all I saw was nothing but this, pathetic, as in, I didn't even want to look at myself. To be honest, if I had the opportunity of just getting out of bed without even changing, dressing, showering, you name it, I would have went outside. But the chances are I would have got caught in terms of, indecency. But the reality is today I enjoy what I see in the mirror. And I want to enjoy what I see in the mirror. So, thank you again, Clinton. I hope that answers your question.
It does, Poobie, and a testament to the fact that there's a lot in this life that is priceless and worth more than any material or monetary value. I'd like to thank you, Poobie, for your time and your willingness to share your story so that others can hopefully relook at their lives and learn, see what they can apply to themselves. If there's anybody out there that is struggling with addiction, and hopefully they can take a glimmer of hope from your story and apply that to their own lives. And even those who aren't necessarily struggling with addiction. But it's a tale of overcoming adversity, which I think everybody can relate to. So thank you again for your time. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much.
Thank you again, Clinton. Thank you for having me. I'd just like to give a quick shout out to all those that are sadly going through this. Again, I repeat, you're not alone. You're not alone in the sense that I know what that feeling is. Thinking that, how would somebody understand me if I was to say this, 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 and this? I mean, there isn't anybody that had done what I'd done. But you'll be amazed that you take that first step of accepting, take that step of admitting you have a problem, admitting that the life is unmanageable, and take that last one, which is accountability. You'll be amazed with how many around the world that is going through exactly what you're going through. I've been there. I know what it feels like. It's not a nice place to go or to be in, shall I say. But it sadly is what it is. But does it mean that I need to stay in that place? Absolutely not. Because every day when I get up, I'm faced with two decisions, the right ones or the wrong ones. And providing I stick to the next right decision, and that is, let me get help, chances are very strong that with time, it will definitely get better in terms that it will allow us to have this new mindset whereby I don't need to have a bet to control my day. I don't need in me, as in Poobie, a four-legged animal called horse racing, a spin of a wheel, a roll of a dice, or flip of a card, or a sport event for that matter, to decide the outcome of my day. Today I am the author of my novel. My novel states categorically, I've made the mistakes, I've diarized it as mistakes, providing I don't repeat it. It stays in my novel as mistakes. If I do, the chances are that yes, I'm going to have to go through those consequences, which in my opinion to me was severe. And I do not wish to go back there. And on the very same note, today I'm the captain of my ship. Yes, I'm going to encounter rough waters, absolutely. Because there's no captain that encountered smooth waters, because then, in my opinion, it's not the captain, or it's not the right person as a captain. There's always going to be rough seas. But by me keep coming back to this amazing fellowship, I'm not promoting it, what's working for me, then I'm in a position to overcome those rough waters. And again, by being honest to myself, that yes, I have a problem, I'm being honest, as in taking accountability. I believe higher power is for every single one of us on earth. And He will definitely come in to fill in those blanks. So once again, I appeal to those. Please reach out. You'll be amazed at what can happen and will happen once you make that first call, and that is to reach out for help. So yeah, lastly, I want to say, where I am today, I'm thankful. I may not be or may not have what I'd like to have, but I'm content with all that's happening around with me. And more importantly, the little that I have, I'm proud to say it's mine. It's not borrowed, it's not loaned, it's not a temporary thing, it's a permanent thing, providing I continue doing the next right thing. As I say, life throws us curveballs. Every day is a different day. But providing I am focused, the chances are even a bad day would end up being a good day. And that's happened to me many a times. So yeah, there is no quick fix. There is no get rich quick fix scheme. I tried it all and I failed dismally. So yeah, all I can say is please, to all that out there that does believe that you have a problem, with the hope that yes, what I've mentioned does hit home, that please just reach out. We're just a call or a WhatsApp away. Again, it's not about the promotion. No, it's about what's working for me and thousands of other men and women around the world. So once again, thank you, Clinton. Thank you for having me. And I just hope and pray that, yes, part two definitely has an impact to whoever out there that is going through these challenges. Thank you.
Thanks, Poobie. Yes, smooth seas don't make for skillful sailors. Thanks again for your time, and thanks for listening, everyone. Ciao.
Thank you, Clinton.
Thank you, Poobie. Not so fast. It is such a cool feeling when I see that Spotify subscribers number increase on the weekly, when I see the number of people listening to the episodes going up, and it really makes a huge difference. Have you ever done something and you feel so good when you get rewarded by some positive feedback and you really feel like you're making a difference? That's what it means to me, and that's how I feel. And it goes a long way. If you like the show, share it and subscribe it. Thank you humbly, and I'll see you next week.